All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the Ghaṭikārasutta. It's this incredible ancient story all about friendship, deep faith, and something really curious, a single mysterious smile from the Buddha.
So picture this. The story kicks off with the Buddha on a journey with his monks. They're just walking along, and all of a sudden, he stops, and this gentle smile just appears on his face. Now, his attendant, Ananda, is always paying attention. He knows that a Buddha doesn't just smile for no reason. There's always something deep behind it. So naturally, he has to ask, what's the reason for the smile?
Okay, so let's get into the answer. The Buddha turns to Ananda and basically says, you see this ground we're standing on? This wasn't always just an empty patch of land. He explains that it used to be a thriving, bustling town called Vagalinga. And, even more amazing, it was the home of a previous Buddha, an enlightened being named Kassapa.
He actually points to a specific spot and says, right here. This is where Kassapa Buddha used to sit and teach his followers. So you see, that smile, it wasn't just a random feeling. It was like a doorway opening up to the past, to a vivid memory of an amazing story that happened right on this very spot. A story he's just about to tell.
So now we're getting to the heart of the Buddha's story. It all revolves around two main characters, two friends who lived in that ancient town of Vagalinga. And let me tell you, their friendship, it's really the engine that drives this whole tale.
Right, so this really sets up the whole dynamic for us. On one side, you've got Ghaṭikāra. He's a humble potter, but he's also what's called the Agapupatako for the Buddha Kassapa, basically his #1 most dedicated supporter. And on the other side, that's his Pia Sahayo, his dear friend, a young guy named Ghaṭikāra. Now, Ghaṭikāra is smart, but he is very skeptical about all this spiritual stuff.
So Ghaṭikāra, who's just full of faith, keeps trying to get his friend to come with him to see the Buddha Kassapa. I mean, he asks him over and over. But Ghaṭikāra just brushes him off. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And he says this line, calling this great enlightened being a shaven-headed ascetic. You can just feel the dismissal in his tone, right? He just doesn't get it.
And this is where things get really interesting. It's like a moment of loving desperation for Ghaṭikāra. After Ghaṭikāra refuses again, they go for a swim. But as they're getting out of the water, Ghaṭikāra does something totally shocking. He literally reaches out, grabs his friend by his wet hair, and makes one final desperate plea for him to come and meet the Buddha.
You can imagine, Ghaṭikāra is just stunned. He's thinking, wait a minute, my friend, this gentle, humble potter, for him to do something this bold, this out of character, this has to be a huge deal. And in that moment, the sheer force of Ghaṭikāra's conviction just completely shatters his skepticism. He finally gives in. He says, okay, I'll go.
So let's see what happens next, because this one visit is going to change everything for Ghaṭikāra. And we're also about to learn something really profound about Ghaṭikāra's own sense of duty.
So Ghaṭikāra goes, he listens to the Buddha's teaching, and he's just blown away, completely transformed. He immediately turns to his friend and says, Ghaṭikāra, this is the most incredible wisdom I have ever heard. Why on earth haven't you become a monk? But Ghaṭikāra's answer is simple and powerful. He reminds Ghaṭikāra about his sacred duty. He has to take care of his blind, elderly parents. And when Ghaṭikāra hears this, it all clicks. He understands. And he declares, well, if you can't go forth because of your duties, then I will.
All right, so the story shifts a little bit here. Now we get to see just how deeply respected this humble potter, Ghaṭikāra, really was. We're about to hear from the Buddha Kassapa himself, why this layman, a guy who never even became a monk, was considered his absolute greatest and most trusted supporter.
And here are the reasons why. Kassapa Buddha lays it all out. He says Ghaṭikāra had just unshakable faith. He lived by the 5 core ethical precepts perfectly. He was completely free from any doubt about the nature of suffering and how to end it. Plus, of course, he was fulfilling that crucial duty to his parents. And because of all this, because of his spiritual purity, he was what's called a non-returner, which means he was so spiritually advanced, he wouldn't need to be reborn as a human ever again.
Now get this. Here's a powerful little story that really shows the incredible depth of trust between the Buddha and his supporter. So one year, the rainy season hits, and the roof of the Buddha's hut starts to leak.
So what does the Buddha do? He sends his monks over to Ghaṭikāra's house to get some thatch to patch the roof. Ghaṭikāra himself isn't home, but his parents are there. They tell the monks, look, the only thatch we have is on the roof of our son's workshop.
But then, without even a second of hesitation, this elderly couple joyfully tells them, take it all for the Buddha.
And then something truly miraculous happens. The monks take the thatch, leaving the workshop completely open to the sky. And for the entire 3 months of the rainy season, not one single drop of rain falls inside that workshop. His clay, his pottery, all of his work, it was all perfectly protected.
This is the best part. When Ghaṭikāra finally gets home, he finds out what happened. And it's not the miracle that gets him, it's the simple fact that the Buddha trusted him so much, had such faith in his generosity, that he felt he could just take the roof from his workshop. Learning this fills Ghaṭikāra with this incredible, ecstatic joy that lasts for 2 whole weeks. It was all about the trust, not the magical reward.
Okay, so let's pull back to the present. The Buddha has just finished telling this beautiful, detailed story to Ananda, and now he delivers the final, mind-blowing twist that ties it all together. And here it is, the big reveal. The Buddha looks at Ananda and says, "At that time, in that life, I was the young man Ghaṭikāra." Can you believe it? He himself was the skeptic, the doubter, the one who had to be literally dragged by the hair to meet an enlightened being.
So the mystery of the smile is solved. That smile back on the road wasn't random at all. It was this deep, heartfelt memory of his dear friend from a life long ago. It was for Ghaṭikāra, the humble potter whose unwavering faith and loving persistence was the very spark that set him on the path to becoming the Buddha.
And that's where this ancient story leaves us, with a question for our own lives, right? It kind of makes you look at the people around you and think, how can our connections, our friendships, help guide us toward our own best selves, our highest potential? And maybe even more, what incredible things could we be inspired to do, all because of the faith someone else has in us?